Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is how to kick ass at wholesaling. The best wholesalers I know do a lot of due diligence up front. They do a thorough walkthrough of the property. They take a ton of photos, warts and all. Others go a step further and pay a professional home inspector to do a report that is passed on to the prospective buyer of the contract. They are knowledgeable of the area and research comps, so they know what a rehabbed project will sell for in the end. They keep that number in mind for when they decide how to assign that contract, leaving a nice profit margin. Great wholesalers list repairs needed and provide accurate repair costs. I can't tell you how many times a rookie wholesaler has presented me with an assignable contract where they state the project needs a new roof, new HVAC, new windows, and should cost about $5,000. Like on what planet? So, if you want to up your wholesaling game, know your numbers, be transparent, involve a professional inspector, and be realistic with your repair costs. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us my personal mentor, Tim Bratz. Tim is the founder and CEO of Legacy Wealth Holdings. He focuses on vision casting, marketing, and supporting his team of A players. He has built his company on integrity, fairness, and transparency. Tim has dedicated his professional life to studying wealth building and personal finance. Working in real estate, Tim has learned how to create a passive income that allows him to live the lifestyle of his choice. His goal is to educate and empower others to become financially free through entrepreneurship and real estate investments. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the show, Tim Bratz.
How are you? Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm a little nervous because you're like such a rock star to me. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I first met you on stage. Well, you were on stage. I was in the audience at the Tab Retreat in Cancun. I mean, how rough is it? You know, hanging out with all these real estate investors in, on the beach and stuff. And you were amazing. And I've been in this industry for about 5 years. And just the next progression for my business is I want to get more into commercial. So I waited a couple months and then I actually did one of your programs. It was a 3-day event and then I signed up and now I'm actually a member of the family. So I am just so excited to have you on the show. Let's get started. How did you get involved in real estate? You were in New York, right?
Well, I'm a kid from Cleveland, Ohio originally. And I'm a blue collar kid, right? And so I think one of the things that we're going to hit a lot on is commercial real estate and apartment investing seems very complex. It seems like there's a lot of moving parts. And the reality is it doesn't need to be that complex. We're going to simplify this. I'm a blue collar kid. My dad was a cop. My mom was a teacher and a stay-at-home mom, very involved in schools and volunteering and all that. And if things are more complex than like a third grade level, I really don't get it. So although our mastermind is super high level, it's super high level value and super high level like people in there, great core values, great mindsets and ambitions and a lot of good stuff going on. But everybody's so chill. Everybody's so relaxed. Everybody's very relatable and can communicate really well on a very simple level. And I think that's really where the real magic comes in.
And I gotta intervene here because There's a big difference. I've been involved with other masterminds and, people do their thing, but you just nailed it. It's just the quality of people that you have surrounded yourself and let into this circle. So I'm just honored to be a part of it. So how did you get started in real estate? Let's go back to that.
Yeah. So I was going through college, 03 to 07. And I never really liked any of my bosses. I think it was because I was probably a bad employee, and I just had this entrepreneurial kind of thing. My dad was a full-time police officer, and then he had a part-time security business. And in that security business, he made more money in his part-time business than he did in his full-time job. And so there was something about owning your own business that really, the kids follow what they see, not what you tell them to do. And so I knew that I kind of wanted to own my own business or start something on the side. And when I was going through college, everybody's making money in real estate. So like kind of similar to today, but even more, right? It was everybody. I don't know if there was anybody not making money in real estate, 03, 04, 05, 06, 07. And so when I graduated from college in 2007, I said, I'm going to go become a real estate agent because that's what I thought people did. So I moved out to New York, which is where my brother lived. And he's like, hey, come and live with me for free. I said, that sounds like a good thing. So I moved out there, got my real estate license. And for some reason, I parked my license with a commercial shop, meaning we did like retail leases and office leases and big investment sales. I didn't do big investment sales because I was the new kid on the block, but I did like some of these, back alley, side street retail spaces and office building leases. And even though I had like the scraps, I took a 400 square foot space on a side street in Greenwich Village in New York City and leased it for $10,000 a month.
Oh my goodness.
On a 12-year lease term with a 4% annual increase. And you start doing the math as a kid who's motivated by money, and you realize this landlord's going to make almost $2 million over the next 12 years for doing something once. For doing something one time. And that's when residual income started making sense to me. I was like, this guy, and he had 8 retail space and he had 15 stories of apartments or whatever it was. And I was like, I need to own real estate. I cannot be brokering this stuff. The wealth is made by ownership. So out of wanting better weather, I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I live now. And I go through this whole analysis phase, analysis paralysis, right? And not doing anything before I ever take action. And while I'm doing this is 2008, the entire market collapses. And I'm saying, I'm ready to go and take action. I'm ready to go and buy something. Because I realized, you can't learn how to swim by reading about swimming in a book. You actually have to go out and do the work, or get in the water and tread water. Like same thing with real estate. You have to go and buy a property. Like you're going to learn more from that first deal than you ever would by reading about it in 100 different books and listening to 1,000 podcasts and attending 100 courses, right? Like go out and do a deal. I can't help you until you do a deal. That's the first hurdle and the biggest hurdle. If you can get to that, now I can help take it to the next level.
So I'm hearing you say, take action. Listen, people, take action. Yes. Awesome.
And there's no such thing as perfect action. There's no, guess what, guys? You're going to get kicked in the nuts. Guess what? You're going to get punched in the gut. Guess what? A contractor's going to screw you. A tenant's going to tear up your unit. You're going to walk in. There's going to be fleas everywhere. This stuff happens, right? But guess what? Those are minor hurdles in the grand scheme of the long-term benefits of owning rental real estate. You can get shit rich. I'm about to swear. I'm sorry.
Hello. You know who you're talking to.
All right. I hope so. You can get shit rich in this business. It's not an experiment. It's so time tested how long real estate has been around and how much wealth it has created or sustained for people who have made wealth somewhere else and needed to maintain their wealth and sustain their wealth. They put it into real estate. It's not a startup. It's not crypto. It's not e-commerce. It's not something that's untested and new. It's something that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. All you have to do is own rental real estate and you will be wealthy. That's it. So get out of your own way, get all that stuff out of your head, go and take action. If you go buy a $100,000 house, it's not a $100,000 risk. If you get a fire sale it, you still sell it for $90,000. So You're really risking $5 to $10,000, right? Get that shit out of your head because it's just stories you're making up in your own head. So that's the first thing. And so I decided I need to go and learn how to invest in real estate. and the market collapses. Everybody's running out the back door of the party, and I just showed up to the front door, right? And I'm like, where's everybody going? And they're like, run from real estate. I was like, damn it. But the good news was the market, like the prices dropped so much. I went and bought my first house on my credit card because I didn't have any money and I didn't know where to get it. And nobody's going to lend me money to somebody who's never done a deal in the worst housing recession ever. So I got MasterCard to do it. And I bought my first house on a credit card, fixed it up myself personally, and flipped it in 100 days for like a $13,000 profit. And it was the biggest check I've ever made up to that point in my life. And I realized, wow, I can still make money in this market. And then I learned how to wholesale. I learned how to find deals. And when I learned how to find deals and people saw my work ethic, then they're like, you know what? I feel comfortable lending money to this guy. I feel comfortable because he does what he says he's going to do, because he knows what a good deal looks like, because I see him emailing me at 2:00 in the morning and at 6:00 in the morning and at 2:00 in the afternoon. All day, he's all focused on this business. And that attracted attention from people with money, which now they were willing to invest capital with me. They had money, but they didn't have the time. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the expertise, and they needed somebody to go and be the workhorse. And I was willing to be that workhorse. So I was then able to go and raise private money, and I bought a small portfolio. When I said, like, these are rough houses in rough shape in a rough neighborhood, for $20,000 a piece, 15 to 20 grand a piece back in when the market was just absolute garbage. And I fixed these things up, and I put another 5-7 grand into each of them. I bought like 5 houses on the same street for $100,000. I was all into it for like 140, wow. I want to say. Yeah, 5 houses, and I rented them each for $600 to $700 a month. Like, you can't lose money at that, right?
Right.
But guess what? Nobody was willing to pay more than like 35 to 40 grand for these houses either at that time, because money was harder to come by. Like, deals were everywhere, but money was nowhere, right? Today is a little bit opposite. Money's everywhere. Right. Deals are harder to come by. And the lesson here is there's obstacles and there's opportunity in every market, right? And so you got to look for the opportunity, not focus on the obstacles like the news and the media does. Where are the opportunities? And so I got really good at like creative finance because it was so difficult to get your hands on money back then. And then all of a sudden, I didn't need creative finance for like 4 or 5 years because money and deals were kind of like equivalent in late like the teens to 2020. And then all of a sudden, deals are harder to find. So I brought a lot of that creative finance back into doing the deals, like getting some seller financing, seller carryback on some things, raising some private money with a seller carryback, with a traditional bank loan, and so just by figuring stuff out, by being resourceful, you can solve so many problems and overcome any sort of obstacle.
And thank you for sharing all that. And yes, that's like such the journey, and it's going to happen. It's cyclical in real estate. It's going to happen over and over again. And so you've just got to be prepared for it. Mm-hmm. Something that you said on stage in Cancun was commercial, investing in commercial buildings and you said it's easy. I'm like, all right, dude, what are you talking about? And in that, we're buying single family homes. So we have a closing. We got to get the inspection. We got to do all this stuff for this one single family home. And then you get the next one on there and you got to go through this whole thing again. And you got to get insurance. You got to do all this stuff. And something that you said that clicked was do that for 100 doors. You have one closing, one, going through financing, gain these deals back to back as single family homes. And you're constantly trying to, tap into who has private money currently at the time. And so to simplify it and put it into that one deal. And I was like, oh, that is what really hit home for me. So how did you do your transition from single family home flips like that, or even just single family long-term rentals into commercial? How did you do that transition?
Yeah. Great question. So I moved back to Cleveland, Ohio. I chased some shiny objects. I sold a couple of houses that I had and pursued like network marketing and some other stupid stuff. I went completely broke in summer of 2012. I had $80 in my bank account, 25 grand in credit card debt. I ran up like 30,000 miles a year on my car. It was just like, it was stupid. The only house I had left was my primary residence. I ended up selling that in Charleston in order to get pull out the equity, and real estate saved my ass, right? I sold that. I had 50 grand paid down my credit cards, bought a ring for my girlfriend, moved back in with my parents while we were engaged until we then moved into an 800 square foot bungalow in Parma, Ohio, in 2012 or 2013. So that being said, it's not all sunshine and roses, right? Like I went through some ups and downs and did some stupid stuff where I wasn't a good steward of capital, which made me a very good steward of capital today.
Right.
But I tell you that because I went back to Ohio, got out of these other businesses, and somebody from those other businesses who had made a lot of money said, hey, the reason we got into this business is so we can invest in real estate. I heard you're getting back into real estate, Tim. Can we invest some money with you? And it wasn't a lot at the time. Well, at the time, it seemed like a lot to me. Looking back, it was 300 grand. Okay, 300 grand. You could do some damage in Cleveland, Ohio with $300,000 in 2012, 2013, though. There were bank-owned properties everywhere. You could buy single-family houses in rough parts of the neighborhood, rough parts of town for like I bought a single-family house for $6,500. $6,500 that was occupied and rented for $600 a month. The tenants never moved out. I owned it for 2 years and sold it for 30 grand or something like that. Like I bought my first triplex was $14,000. I put another $6 grand into it and rented it for $550, $450, and $350, whatever that ends up adding up to, $1,550 a month. And I was into it for 20 grand, right? And then this apartment complex, an 8-unit building, came across my desk, and I saw it it was bank owned, and I made an offer, and I bought it for $30,000. I bought it like,
wow.
And 3 of the units were already occupied. And now I had to go in, put in all new furnaces, do a ton of painting, do a ton of flooring, fixtures, clean up, put another, 50 grand into it. And then I was able to get it occupied, but I was like a slumlord, right? It was like cheap. It wasn't very functional. It was like, really, really junky stuff. I just tried to do everything on the cheap back then. And that's why I didn't screen tenants, and there was a lot of turnover. But what resonated with that one building is what you were saying, Jen, was I could go to 8 houses, negotiate with 8 sellers, look at 8 roofs, 8 foundations, go to 8 closings, raise money on 8 different deals. And then I have 8 tax bills, and I have 8 utility bills, and I have 8 of everything else. Versus this one 8-unit building, I looked at 1 roof, 1 foundation, drove to 1 location, negotiated with 1 seller, raised money 1 time. I have 1 tax bill to pay. I have 1 utility bill to pay. I go to 1 location to collect rent and to meet the contractors, and I sell it 1 time, right? So I'm not saying one's better than the other. I think you should do all until you get to a certain level, right? I think, those single family, boom, 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 and you're doing a couple of those deals per month, per year, per quarter, whatever that looks like for you. And then you're ready to take down an apartment or a multifamily deal, because that's going to be the bigger jump up. That's what takes you to that next level. So whatever you can do to get up to 100 doors is what I would say, like, just obsess over 100 doors. It was like my password for all my like logins. It was like 100 units, 100 doors, whatever it was. 100 units exclamation mark or whatever. Like, it was a password for everything. So everything consumed me in trying to get to 100 doors. And that then allowed me to go and qualify for loans that would get me into like these bigger apartment buildings. So
that is so funny. That's so funny you say that, because, and I'm manifesting this out to the universe right now, but my goal this year is 101 doors. So
love it.
It's literally right on my vision board behind me, if you could see that, but 101 doors. Someone said, I'm going to get 100 doors this year. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get 101 doors. So I'm 8. So
there is zero reason why you couldn't do that with your experience. Like, now it's just, here's the thing. If somebody came to me and they said, I want 100 doors, and they've never done a deal before, I'd be like, let's go do a deal first and like there's a year of just like, let's go get your teeth kicked in a little bit, right? Like, let's I want you to feel what this is. But it's good. It's good because everybody's like, oh, it's so hard. And then they jump ship every 2 years because, I didn't make enough money, or I didn't get rich, or I didn't build enough wealth. It takes 3 to 5 years to become an expert at anything.
Right.
There's statistical analysis on all of this. It takes 10,000 hours. So if you worked 40 hours a week on real estate investing, 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000 hours. You need to work for 5 years to become an expert.
Right.
So guess what? You're going to go. I was bad for 8 years and doing it for 70 hours, 80 hours a week, right? I was horrible. I just couldn't figure it out. I kept making the same stupid mistakes and hanging out with dipshits all the time.
Yeah.
And until I started hanging out in mastermind groups, like that's what changed everything for me. I was king of the dipshits, right? Like it was silly. So the key though is once you do a couple of deals, now it's like, now you just need to stretch your thinking. That's the only limitation. Like these nitwits that I know in commercial real estate, they are no better than any of us from the residential world. Somebody told them that they could think bigger and they started thinking bigger. Like they're not smarter than us. Their IQ is not different than us. They weren't raised in a better family than us or a better area of the neighborhood or like race, gender, creed, religion. None of that stuff matters. It's the size of your success is directly correlated to the size of your thinking. And that's all you have to do. You just have to have big goals. And if you work with dollars, you're going to earn dollars. You work with thousands, you earn thousands. If you work with millions, you earn millions of dollars.
I actually wrote that down, and you said that at the last time we were in Vegas. We were at a conference in Vegas, and I was like, ooh, I like that. So there are a lot of people listening, and they want to start thinking bigger. So I'm going to ask some very basic questions, and we'll kind of just
let's get through giving them. I want people to be able to walk away from this podcast with the confidence of like, I could go buy a multifamily property. Right? Like that's what I want them to say at the end of this. So ask me questions to help overcome any sort of obstacles or any sort of mind bottlenecks that they might have going through their head right now.
All right, perfect. And thank you for the opportunity because these are personally coming from me. So why are commercial properties evaluated differently than single family homes?
Yeah, great question. So single family homes are valued based on the comparable approach, right?
Comps.
The comps. Yep. So you're looking at a house that's a 3-bed, 2-bath on Main Street. That's 2,000 square feet and it's sold for $275,000. If you're flipping a house and your house is 2,000 square feet, 3 beds and 3 baths, guess what? You might be able to get a little bit more than that house because you have an extra bathroom or maybe you have a little bit more square footage and you could take a look at a little bit of like the finishes and stuff too. But an appraiser is going to look at it based on comparable sales, right? When you get into commercial real estate, and that's apartments, that's office, that's retail, that's warehouse and like storage and all that other stuff, anything like that, that's a rental real estate, it's going to be valued based the same way that businesses are valued. Businesses are valued based on income and based on net operating income, right? How much money does a business make? What are the expenses? And what are you left with? That's the net operating income. And then there's some sort of multiple of that net operating income, depending on the industry, that you multiply it by, and that's the value of that business. That's how apartment buildings are valued too. You take a look at the total rents and there's a lot of other ways to generate revenue on apartment buildings, right? It's not just rents. Now you have laundry income. You might have parking income. You might have storage income. You might have, there's 1,000, like you can have valet trash. You can have car washing. You'd have whatever.
And one that you brought up was like the 1990s, how they all had tennis courts and then turn them into like a little dog park. I loved that one.
Yeah. So we took all of our tennis courts, we turned them into dog parks, and now we attract tenants with pets who pay pet fees that are non-refundable. And then they also pay a little bit more on a monthly basis per pet. So it generates more revenue, right, on the top line. Then what are the expenses? The expenses are, taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, management. And there's a few kind of offshoots of each one of those, right? Like in management, you have payroll and you have marketing expenses and you have, software expenses or like stuff like that. All it is, it's more line items, right? On your profit and loss statement, on your income statement than you would on a single family rental property. But at the end of the day, you look at the baseline number, which is the net operating income. And then the multiple in real estate is that cap rate. So cap rate is the multiple that
you're saying cap rate like I understand this, Tim. And
all right, so
I am a student of yours and I still can't wrap my brain around cap rates, which is capitalization, correct?
So a cap rate is the same thing as an unleveraged yield. What the hell does that mean? Unleveraged, meaning there's no debt on it.
Okay.
Yield, meaning return. Okay. So meaning if you bought a property cash, that's what that's saying. What is the return on investment? That's what your cap rate is. So if you bought $1 million apartment building cash, had no debt on it, and it brought in let's call it $80,000 a year in net operating income, your cap rate is 8%.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
That was a great explanation, Mr. Bratz.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
The whole changing everything and putting it into cash, like that's what just clicked for me.
Boom. Yep. And so that's what complicates. All it is it's a return on investment as if you were buying it with cash. That's what cap rate is. I think it's one of the best valuations of property. Sometimes other people look at like cash on cash return, which means if you bought it now with a loan and you got an 80% bank loan,
okay,
and Jen brought $200,000, right? Now you have an $800,000 loan. Let's call it $4,000 a month. Let's call it $48,000 a year. Okay, in debt service.
Okay,
you following me now?
Yes.
So same $1 million building. If you bought it with cash, you have an 8% cap rate, or an 8% unleveraged yield, or an 8% return on investment.
Okay.
If you bought it with debt, an 80% loan, that means you brought $200,000 and the bank gave you a new loan for $800,000. Let's say that $800,000 is about $50,000 a year in debt service.
Okay.
Okay. You have an $80,000 return net, minus the debt service of $50,000 leaves you with $30,000 after debt service of excess cash flow. $30,000.
I'm with you.
That $30,000 divided by the $200,000 that you put down is your cash on cash return. $30,000 is what you're putting in your pocket every single year of actual cash, but you put $200,000 out. So really, that's $30,000 on $200,000. That's 15% cash on cash return.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now that looks like a sexy deal. It's cash on cash. You might be able to get it 100% financed at, $1.2 million. And all of a sudden, you didn't put any money out of pocket, and you still make $7,000 a year cash flow, but the property's only worth $1 million, but you paid 1.2. Does that make it a good deal because your cash on cash is good? No, not necessarily.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's the confusing part, why people look at cash on cash. I don't like looking at that. I mean, it's definitely something we pay attention to, but I like cap rate. I think it's the cleanest, easiest way of just saying, hey, if I bought this building cash, what kind of return on investment do I make between, the total purchase price and the the net operating income. Now here's the tricky part, Jen.
Here.
This is where it gets a little bit more complex. You're looking at your cap rate at your cost basis of the property. You might buy it in a market. You're in North Carolina?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Yes.
Yeah. So you might buy it in Raleigh, and Raleigh might be a 5% cap rate market. That means you got a pretty good deal on that because you bought it at a higher cap rate than what the market's at. Okay.
I'm no one can see me right now, but my mind just blew because that was what I was not connecting. Cause then someone can say, cause I look at, Burton's, in his calculator,
yep.
The calculator that he uses, and what's your area, like what's the cap rate for your area, and there's a whole list on them. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? And then I'm getting deals sent to me from brokers, and they say it's this cap rate, and I'm like, oh, that's not what Nick Burton said, and like how does all that work? And then I also have heard that cap rates can change, so this is finally starting to click for me. Tim, I mean, we could stop right here because that's all I needed to know. That was amazing. I am just so grateful for you, explaining that and dumbing that down for me, because that is just
good.
Huge. Anything else you want to add to that, or should I just keep my brain?
I would say, if you're buying it at a better cap rate than what your market cap rate is, that means you're in really good shape, right? Like,
so if the cap rate,
$80,000.
well, hold on a second. if the average is like 6%, you're buying at an 8% cap rate. The 8% is better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So let me give you an example. That same $80,000 divided by a 5% cap rate in Raleigh would put the value of that building at $1.6 million. So you divide by whatever the percentage cap rate is in order to figure out what the stable value or what you can expect it to be worth. So if you're buying in Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I am, and things value at let's call it a 5.5% cap rate, you would take whatever the net operating income is divided by 0.055, because it's 5.5%.
Right.
Equals a building that nets $80,000. I could probably get a bank, or the bank would appraise it somewhere around $1.45 million.
And that's what they call the stabilized value, correct?
Yes, that's the stabilized value. That is not your cost basis. That's the difference. You're looking at both cap rates at what is your cost basis and what is the cap rate in the stabilized value in your marketplace. So understand there's two different ones that you're calculating, because you could buy it at a much better cap rate than what things are appraising at in your marketplace, which is good. That means you walk into a lot of equity right out of the gate.
And listeners, I know you're just meeting Tim for the first time. I have been hanging out with him, really learning from him directly since about January. And we're recording this on Cinco de Mayo, by the way. But, just how you explain things and the importance of investing in yourself, because this is the next, like I said, the next gradual step for our business is to start, when you said just the one deal, you're doing one closing, getting financing, I'm like, oh, I would love that. Mm-hmm. And so it is so important to invest in yourself. And that's why being part of your mastermind, being part of this, I just want to give a quick shout out here because you have another commercial empire. So the next one's not till September. Is that true?
Yeah, we only do 3 of them a year. We usually do one in January and then sometime in the spring, and then we do one in the fall. So yeah, next one's in September. It's the last one this year. And it's
It's September 14th and 16th through 16th. I got it pulled up here. So it's a 3-day virtual event, and you used to do these in person. And then when COVID hit, you were able to shift so quickly because that's what we have to do in this business and all businesses. Mm-hmm. And you made it virtual. And so many more people can attend. And then you also have live events for your legacy family, you call it, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's just my mastermind. That's the only live events we do.
And you pay a monthly fee, but it is so beneficial to have these people around you who are in the same mindset as you. Not everybody's, there's other people that are new like me, but can see it. And when we are surrounding ourselves with people who are in this business and such a great, it's called the legacy family, and it's something that you provide for us, and it is so worth the value. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for that, because
I appreciate it.
And another thing about paying for investing in yourself, and some people get caught up in the price tag of things, but then you have to look at, if you're going to be in the same place a year from now, like truly, what is the expense?
It's a lot more expensive trying to learn this stuff by getting punched in the gut and getting your legs taken out. And like that was there's multiple ways that you can look at it and say, hey, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's the connections that you're going to make, right? It's the information that you're going to make, the connections for raising money and all these other things, deal sourcing, why you pay to be in certain rooms. Like I'm in multiple masterminds because there's a lot that I can learn and I can make money. There's a lot I can learn and save from losing money. And the reality is you're paying for proximity. You're paying for relationships where, Jen, I've been in this business for 15 years. I've been investing in multifamily real estate since 2012 for 10 years, and investing in real estate for 15 years. Guess what? I've been through all the bad CPAs in order to find a good one. I've been through all the bad insurance agents in order to find a good one. I've been through all the bad contractors and national vendors and suppliers and all these. And my team has dedicated years, like literally a decade, to going through all the bad vendors, all the bad suppliers, all the bad people in the business, bad management companies, in order to find the best ones. If you come into a group and I'm able to shortcut all of that and give you every single one of those. And I'm not talking about mine necessarily. Like obviously mine does that, but there's a lot of masterminds. Like just go out and get involved in a room. People don't realize how long it takes to develop these relationships and these connections. If I know of a private money lender who's been investing with me for 10 years and they trust me implicitly because I consistently paid them back, right? And then Jen, you come to me and you say, hey, I really need money for this deal. And I go to my buddy, Ricky, and I say, Ricky, Jen needs money for a deal. She's in my mastermind. I've got her back. My team's got her back. We support her on a daily basis on boardroom calls or whatever. And she's good for it. It took me 10 years to get this guy to lend me millions of dollars. It took you $1,000 a month in order to get an introduction made. And now I have an investor that has deployed millions and millions of dollars into real estate and is already familiar. And all that trust and confidence in me that's taken me 10 years to build up, I convey it to you by making an introduction because I know you're the real deal because you pay for growth, because you invest in yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Like think about that, what that does and how quickly that can compound and just catapult you into success.
And I'm truly grateful to being part of your inner circle. So I thank you for welcoming me in. At the beginning of this, I did a badassery bestowment. Do you have a little nugget that you can share with the listeners?
Yeah. Yes. I would say the reason I was bad for the first 8 years in real estate and got really good 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was, is because I wasn't focusing on the activities that moved the needle. Right? The revenue generating activities. Creating business cards doesn't move the needle. Buying a new CRM doesn't move the needle. Creating a website doesn't move the needle. You know what moves the needle? Sourcing deals, getting on the phone and talking to sellers and brokers and making offers. That is the only activity that you should be measuring on a daily basis. You know what else moves the needle? Raising money, getting on the phone and talking to private money or potential private money lenders on a daily basis. That's what moves the needle. And then dialing in your operations, working with your team, whatever that ends up looking like, whether if you're a flipper or a wholesaler, that's more on the dispo side. If you're buy and hold, it's more your buy and hold management team. But it's dialing in those operations, making sure you have better standard operating procedures and people on your team. They're trained better. They have the right resources, all of that kind of stuff. But sourcing deals, raising money, and dialing in your operations are the only 3 things that matter in this business. Anything outside of that is a waste of your time. Don't do it.
That is a perfect badassery bestowment. Thank you, Tim, for sharing that. And the second part of the podcast is what makes Tim a badass, which clearly you are. So I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
12 Pillars by Jim Rohn. It is one of the most powerful books that not a lot of people have heard of or know about. It is pretty much how I've designed my life is around that book. It's like 100 pages. You'll knock it out in a day or two. And it's such an easy story. And the concepts are so profound and powerful and impactful. I read it every year.
I love me some Jim Rohn. Awesome. I don't know that one. I need to get that. All right.
It's the best.
And you told me a book, and I was just looking for it on my bookshelf, and I don't even remember what it was because I passed it to Vance, and he's reading it now. But you said there's another book, and I ended up buying it. And yes, I just, anything you tell me to do, I'm doing it. So I appreciate it, Tim. All right, the first A in badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh man, best advice. One thing that we just obsess over is like honesty is the best policy, right? Like my team will come to me and they'll be like, hey, what should we do about this situation with this investor? I was like, honesty is the best policy. Tell them that we screwed up and we're going to pay them and they're going to get all their money back. The return's not going to be as high as we hoped it would be, but guess what? We're going to eat the loss, not them. Like that's pretty good worst case scenario, right? Well, hey, what do we do about the lender who's pissed about this or the property manager who we're trying to sell this property and we don't want them to know? I was like, dude, honestly, you think they're not going to find out when we have all these buyers coming through? Like, dude, just tell them. Like when COVID hit, remember when COVID hit and everybody's like, there's an eviction moratorium and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to tell any of my tenants. I was like, What do you think they're not going to find out? You think this is like a friggin' secret that you're going to be able to hide from these people? No. Like, we hit it in the face before it ever hit us in the face. We sent everybody an email and said, the government says that you cannot be evicted, but that doesn't mean you don't have to pay rent, right? We need you to pay rent, because if you don't pay rent, we can't hire an exterminator. We can't pay for the maintenance person to come out and fix your toilet or fix your faucet. We can't pay to have the grass cut and to keep or pay for the trash to be removed. Like, if you don't pay rent, we don't have money to pay for those things. And we can't keep your home clean, safe, and functional, right? So you see how important it is. And guess what? We collected more rent on April 1st than we did in March.
Wow.
Right? Because we just were like obscenely honest, right? When I have buyers come through and they want to buy stuff, hey man, here's all the good things with this property. Here's all the bad things with the property. I don't need to sell, but I'm willing to sell. Here's make me an offer. Dude, I don't care, right? Like, I don't have to sell. So I don't have to be discreet or sneaky and it just comes off as people want to do more business with me, because
absolutely,
I'm just, like, obscenely like transparent and authentic and genuine in everything that I do.
I love it. And that's, again, why you do so well in this business, and why a lot of people fail, is because they try to be sneaky. They try to be shoddy and do shitty work out there. And, so I love that. Thank you. And that's such a great,
you get spun out if you do that. If you take shortcuts, you get spun out.
Absolutely.
Right? The people with the integrity have the staying power.
Huge. All right. The D in Badass is drive. What drives you to be successful?
Oh man. That's a good one. I think early on it was money, right? Like, candidly, I think we all want to make money. We want to, but over the past couple of years, I live on the beach, right? I have a mountain house. I have all those things.
Don't you own an island now?
Yeah, I bought an island. It's a short-term rental thing down in like Beaufort, South Carolina. If you know from it. It's awesome. It's like really cool. We'll have an event down there or something. I'll have you down there.
Excellent.
But yeah, it was money initially. Then you're like, okay, you have all this stuff and you realize like it doesn't fill the bucket anymore, right? And then you start doing it to help other people, right? And make a bigger impact. There's still like an internal fire and an internal drive of like setting the bar, right? Like, just achievement of like setting the tone, setting the pace, showing people what's possible from a blue collar kid from Cleveland, Ohio, right? Like, if he can do it, I can do it, right? Like, there's a lot of people who've said that and that I've had the blessing to inspire, because I set the tone and they know that I'm a normal frigging kid, And so yeah, I would say that's a big driver, is showing people what's possible. And then obviously it's not about the money, it's more about what you can do with the money now. Libraries you can build, people you can help, hospitals you can support. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff that I tip big every time I go out, right? Just because, why not, right? Like, these are people who, could sit at home and not work and get paid by the government and make more money. But they're out there working, doing things that's not easy. Like waiting on people is not easy. Like, being in that, like, I've done it before, right? And so when I go out, I tip big, make sure that people are taken care of, and pay it forward, and just that's a bigger driver for me now.
Well, I am reaping the benefit because you inspire me, and it's evident in everything that you do, and I appreciate that. The second A is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what's a goal you are currently working on?
Yeah. So our current goal actually for 2021 and 2022, like, we grew very, very fast. I was up to 4,840 doors under ownership at one time. I probably transacted 6,000 or 7,000 doors, but under one time that's where I was. And I just had, I had some loose operating partners and just weren't paying attention to some stuff. I had small deals. I had some C-class property that I wanted to get rid of. And so over the past like 18 months, we've been really just kind of refining the portfolio, trimming the fat, getting rid of management intensive properties. And that's been the goal, right? It's not like a growth goal, but it's growth by subtraction. It's addition by subtraction. And by trimming the fat, it sets us up, makes us more liquid. We've taken, legitimately thousands and thousands of doors, full cycle, and been able to, like, a lot of people have bought a lot of doors over the past year or two, but they haven't taken them full cycle, right? It's a different animal to be able to say, hey, I've taken thousands of doors from cradle to grave through renovation and everything. Despite what happened with COVID, it still came out clean on the back end. Like, that's a powerful story. So we're setting ourselves up. We're probably going to scale back to about 2,000, 2,500 doors by the end of this year. But then we're in growth mode. We'll probably pick up another 1,000 to 2,000 doors between now and the end of the year.
Well, I am.
They're going to be like good stuff, like nice properties, right. Like the stuff that you'd be like, I could live there.
Like an island, like a mountain home. Those things. Yeah. Mountain mansion. Where's that mountain home in North Carolina, by the way?
That's in Franklin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Franklin, like Highlands, Cashers, and Franklin, like that little trifecta of area.
And you left my parking spot available for me, right?
Yeah, that's a cool property. I love that one.
I've seen pictures. It's beautiful. All right. The first S in badass is systems. What are systems you have in place to help you achieve success?
Oh man. Probably, I don't know if you can call this a system or not, but it's, early on in business, you're like, you go to a mastermind, you're like, I need to implement this. Oh, that's an amazing thing that I need to go put in place. And I need to track that. And like, now I go to a mastermind and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Who do I hire to go and implement that? Who do I need to put in place to go and do that in my business? And so that's my personal system is I don't put anything else on my plate. I know exactly what the highest and best use of my time is, and what kind of greases the wheels for my team. And I need to be focused on that. So whenever I see a good idea, I think, who on my team can implement this, or who would I need to hire to implement this? And that is my system for growth.
And you had it in your intro, and it's vision casting. And I was like, what the hell is vision casting? I actually had to Google it. And that's exactly, to me, the definition of that is, finding the right people, surrounding yourself with the right team. Man, do you have an amazing team. Every person is just of such high quality, and you share them with us. So I do appreciate that. All right. Wrapping this up, the final S in badass is success. What does success mean to Tim Bratz?
Oh man. I would, I used to, it's hard to quantify, it was initially, hey, I want to make $1 million. Right. And then it was about me. And then it was like, I want to help other people. I want to help 1,000 other people make $1 million, become millionaires. That means I've created $1 billion of value in the universe, right? And then I was like, you know what? We don't need more millionaires. We need more leaders. And I want to help create 1,000 leaders who then can go and inspire another 1,000 people to then become millionaires or become leaders, whatever. And that creates $1 trillion of value in the universe. So that to me, helping people become more confident in order to buy bigger deals, or more confident in order to do business, in a better way, and like be more brave, overcome these bullshit stories in their head that we all have, that we all let hold us back. I think that's just, to me, it's like, it's sad, right? It's like, and it's all nonsense. It's all fake. It's all bullshit. It's made up stories that we make up in our own head. And to help people overcome that is like a big deal to me. And then helping them think bigger and see that like there's no limitations. Like the only person who can limit your growth is you. That's it. So get out of your own way, like, and let's go. That to me, getting people to quit their jobs, it's exciting. Like that kind of stuff. Like helping people see themselves as more than what they could just see themselves as without me. That to me is success.
Well, I'm, again, reaping the benefit of it. And the listeners, I'm sure, can see how truly gifted you are in inspiring others, sharing all the information, everything that you have going on, sharing your team with everyone. And Tim, I just truly appreciate you being on today's show. How can the listeners find you?
I appreciate you having me here. It's been a huge honor, and you're one of my favorite people, and we always have fun when we're hanging out.
I gotta tell you really quick though. I asked Vance, my husband, I'm like, hey, do you have any questions I should ask Tim? And he's like, yeah, ask him if he remembers seeing us when he was walking into his hotel room as we were leaving. Like we had our bags leaving to get on the airplane and you were just coming in for the night. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. He's like, ask me if he remembers that.
I'm a blue collar guy from Cleveland, Ohio. I like to go and have fun. Hey, we work hard, we play hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was like 5:30, 6 a.m. or whatever it was.
And you just looked up and you're like, hey, I'm like, oh, welcome home. Excellent. Yeah, that just shows our age compared to yours. But how do people find you online or your website?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook. I'm very active on both those platforms. I have a TikTok page, LinkedIn. And we have a YouTube channel called Legacy Wealth, and we're putting out content all the time there, a couple times a week. So yeah, just plug into any one of those things. Shoot me a message if you need a connection or anything that I might be able to help you out with, a question I might be able to help you out with. Shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook, and I'm actively checking those on a daily basis. So I just plug in there, and then we can figure out if there's ways that we can make some money, build some wealth, help each other out, and that'd be fun too. So again, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Jen. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in Denver. Whoop, whoop.
I know it's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome. So thank you, Tim. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.